もう来たのね。どうぞ、適当にかけて。
Hey everyone, so let's tackle a big question about Firenze. Should you actually go for hybrid build and invest into her ultimate? Some people, including myself, were skeptical about this because it never felt like her ultimate was the main focus of this character. And most of her damage seems to come from her skill. So I did some real testing between builds, and the results confirmed my suspicion. But there was a twist. So in this video, I will show you the result and possibly a better way to build this character. So let's dive in. Overall, the PL skill build outperformed the hybrid, even though the hybrid build adds slightly better emblems. But here is the twist. When I combine hybrid build with skill-focused emblems, it actually surpassed both builds. So the real question becomes, why does this combination work well? Let me show you. First, let's talk about how I test this. To keep things as fair as possible, most of my tests were done against Evernight, since that boss doesn't favor Firenze's skill damage, unlike Lady does. Also, I kept each run at 2 minutes to avoid the chaos or ING of the final minute, since it can be hard to control, especially for a melee character like Firenze. With that out of the way, let's take a look at builds and emblems that I use. Each build has about 70 pots, which is pretty doable for Firenze, because the game usually gives more pots to the character in the main slot. The main difference between the two builds is one thing. I swapped out Void Blessing on Corset, since it gives the lowest value on average, and then replace that with Place Your Bet on Firenze. For emblems, they were tailored to each build, but I try to keep it realistic as possible. So there is no such thing like Rainbow Pen and Rainbow Charge efficiency on the same piece. On the left side, it is my take on skill-focused emblems. And on the right side, it is for hybrid build, which I try to follow Makey recommendation as much as possible. You might notice that there are more rainbow stats on the left, but actually the 20% skill damage is much more common compared to 15% gold charge efficiency. Now for the results. As mentioned in the beginning, the skill build performed better even in neutral environment like Evernight. It consistently got around 60k in 2 minutes. But for the hybrid build, it was pretty rough. The best score I managed to get was around 55k. And it also fluctuated a lot, usually between 50k and 55k. I actually tried so many different out strategies, but even the runs with perfect out timing, it still wasn't enough to close the gap. But then I had a realization. As mentioned before that, Firenze should focus mostly on skill damage and treat her ultimate as a bonus. So I asked myself, what if I use hybrid build but with skill-focused emblems? Because if my take is correct, then investing too much into ultimate stats on emblems would be such a waste, since ultimate isn't a major part of her total damage. So I test that, and yeah, this combination outperformed other tools. Not by a huge margin, but it felt much better to play, because you got consistent damage from her skills, and still some burst from her ultimate. As much as I wanted to call this a half hybrid build, it is still a hybrid build, just with a different emblems priorities. So the hybrid build itself isn't a problem, it is how emblems are recommended. The one that I used on the hybrid build before, it assumes best case scenarios, but the damage between her skill and ultimate has like 50-50% split. To be fair about this, it might actually be possible if you could always perfectly time her ultimate and also use that right away after it's off cooldown. But I think that is too ideal. So in practice, your emblem focus should still be on skill damage, because that is where most of Firenze's damage comes from. Oh, by the way, these tests were done with T0 corset. So if you happen to have T3 or even T5 corset, the gap would probably become even bigger, especially if you have things like high risk +3 or main skill +3. So to summarize everything, Firenze is a consistent damage dealer. Her ultimate is nice, but it's just a bonus and it shouldn't be your main focus. So my recommendation is use the hybrid build but prioritize skill stat on emblems. This doesn't mean that you don't need ultimate stats, they just are not your main priorities. And of course, it is still possible that in some very specific scenarios, that ultimate could become a big part of the total damage. It might be unlikely, but yeah, keep that in mind. And hey, don't just take my word. If you got a hybrid build, you can test this for yourself. Just do 2 runs. One run where you play normally and use everything, and another run where you do everything the same, but just don't use your ultimate. Then compare the damage, and you will clearly see how much ultimate actually matters. And don't forget to let me know your results in the comments. That's it for this video. Like and sub for more content like this. Thanks for watching, and I will see you next time.
Huh?